All right, so VT corner. VT beat Marshall 31-14. It was a really ugly first half. No one will tell you otherwise. The offense struggled big time. Drones looked uncomfortable. The offense had zero rhythm in the first half. And to me, Sam, it seemed like Bowen refused to commit to the run early for some reason, even though I thought it was working to a point.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were definitely a better running team than they were a passing team in the first half. But it just seems like they're trying so hard to scheme guys open with the same stuff they ran last year. And it's just getting covered up and they don't have any other options. And you're flushing Kyren out of the pocket. So it doesn't look good offensively. What I will say, though, is I never felt like Tech was in jeopardy of losing that game. I never felt it, even when...
No, I would agree.
I agree. Never felt that way. The defense was locked down, and you could tell it was more the Virginia Tech offense messing up than it was
couldn't
the
pull
Marshall
their head
defense
out of their
making
ass.
plays. Yes.
I mean, that's what was happening. And it was frustrating because was it in the first half or the second half where we got down to the 1 or the 2-yard line and we didn't run the ball. Like we had gotten down there because he finally started calling some runs and like inside zone type stuff, like running right down the field. And we get down there and then they call that pass play. Kyren like flips it out to the side as he's falling down. It's a penalty, whatever. They take him back. We don't score. And I had to stop tweeting because even though I've gotten older and better at reacting to games in the game, I have a really hard time of like collecting my thoughts still. And I was just so infuriated that they refused to commit to the run because even though we have these wide receivers, even though we're projecting Kyren to come back and have an amazing year, we are not a pass first team. In all of the games that Brent Pry has been here, any game where we try to be more of a passing team, we don't play well. We don't move the ball well. It happened against Marshall just last year.
Yeah, and dude, it's so frustrating because also they had they had like a 3rd and inches and a 4th and inches, and they threw on both of those plays. Dude, just push. Your quarterback's massive. If you're at the goal line, guess what? His probably best quality as a running back and what NFL scouts are looking at him for is as a goal line running back. Just line up and give him the ball. Line up and pistol. Turn around.
They would have scored without a doubt.
They would have scored the first play.
Yeah.
And that's what's so frustrating. You feel like they're trying offensively to score in the most beautiful, perfect way.
Just to be something they're not.
That's like, dude,
that's what was happened against the first half against Vandy too.
It is.
Listen, I know Vandy was keen on the run and we were having a hard time moving the ball, but we were like trying to move it on the outside. And like we saw against Marshall, when we were calling those inside plays, like they could not stop us. And it was evident by what happened in the second half because they called 27 runs to 5 passes in the second half. The first drive in the second half, how many runs did we have, Sam?
11.
11
of 12 plays.
11 runs, 1 pass on that first drive. Scored easily, scored again because we committed to the run and it allowed, I think we got the Felton touchdown at one point in the second half. So 3 points though in the first half is unacceptable. You're like offensive points. I know we had a great return by Jalen Lane, but 3 offensive points against Marshall when we had lots of possessions. That was really poor.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. And I think it's to the point where internally, I'm wondering if they're having conversations like they had after that Marshall game of, okay, whatever you're doing is not working. You have to change it. Like there is no, we'll watch the film and look at it. Like you have to change how you are approaching games. One thing I will say though, is the pass protection I think is the biggest issue right now because the wide receivers are getting open downfield a lot. Kyren just doesn't have time. I think that's one of the issues with running an offense with this much motion and smoke and mirrors, whatever you want to call it, movement, is Kyren has 1, maybe 2 reads on almost every play. He never really has a pass skeleton going out there with 4 wide. And so when that first or second isn't there, it turns into Kyron runaround mode.
Yeah.
And sometimes when Kyron pulls his eyes down and tucks it, there's a guy right there because the offensive line isn't good enough to give him 2.5, 3 seconds. And so I think it stems from your offensive line not being quite good enough, but you're not giving him enough options. There was a 3rd and 4. I think Tech had the ball on like the 5-yard line. It was that touchdown pass to Felton. 3rd down and 4. There was only 2 routes ran. There was a swing route to Jalen Lane, and then there was a little hook zone finder route by Felton in the back of the end zone. If both of those are covered up, Kyron probably gets sacked, and you're kicking a field goal.
And he already got sacked 3 times on 3rd down in this game.
Virginia Tech is one of the most sacked teams in the country right now.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks, but they have 8 sacks. I think it's the worst in the ACC, right? So
it's worse in the ACC. I think it's 130th out of 130 or whatever we're at now.
And some of that's O-line, some of that's holding the ball, some of it's scheme, but it goes back to the main point on offense, which is we are not good enough offensively to be a pass first team. We must run the ball to open up the pass. Our run blocking first year under Pry, second year under Pry, and right now is so much farther ahead than the pass blocking, and you have to rely on it.
Yeah, and I think it's just kind of the players you have. Like I think they have better pass blockers than better run blockers than pass blockers on this offensive line.
Yeah,
I would also say, dude, this is kind of a classic Beamer Bowl win.
Yeah,
like offense looks terrible. You can't do anything. You get a special teams touchdown, and your defense just locks down.
Do you remember Robbie's hot take that the defense would win us like 4 or 5 games or something like that?
I mean, this is
is one of them.
Like I think they had 12 pass breakups, which is the most that they've had since the 80s, I believe. Like crazy defense.
That was the best stat of the day. Was the 12 pass breakups on defense. The most alarming stat. So I want to give kudos. That 12 pass breakups is crazy. Like Sam said, you do not see that. It's the most in 8 seasons that CFB stats had. And like you said, I think it went back like a couple of decades.
Yeah, Hokie Sports goes back. It's a tough stat to keep, though. Yeah. Like you don't really trust it. Sure. But it's 12 is a huge.
It's one of the most in our history, without a doubt. I mean, 12 pass breakups in a game is crazy. But the most alarming was 0 catches for Ollie Jennings. It's something we'll talk a little bit more about on the 2 Deep show. Before we close out VT Corner, it was really great to see the defense play the way that they did. After that Vandy debacle, they gave up just 278 yards. And in reality, this game was like 2 plays for Marshall offensively, which got them the 1 touchdown. And then the other touchdown was because of a special teams blunder, which I'm hoping isn't a theme, Sam.
Over the last couple of years, special teams blunders have kind of been a theme, and penalties, like procedural penalties. So, but Tech is not.
I'm proud of the defense.
Looks a little rusty. Defense looked great. They had a ton of attitude. I loved it. There was really only one big offensive play for Marshall, and it was a pretty well-ran trap run. So,
and that guy is good. Like that running back, he had a 100-yard game. So, like, if you want to knock the defense a little bit, like it was a 100-yard game for that guy. 69 yards came on 1 play, but I think that's a good player. He had a really sweet touchdown in the Stony Brook game. Like he's good.
He's averaging like 16 yards a carry. Like he's good. And that offense, they were shook from the moment. Like Tech had them on lockdown the whole time.
The quarterback was awful.
And partially they don't have a quarterback.
What we did, but like that quarterback was really bad. We should say that too.
Air raid offense with a bad quarterback is an interesting choice.
Yeah. We'll go into more detail about Marshall and ODU. So I have a bunch of things. I know you got some notes on that too. We want to talk about with ODU later in the week.